Please be seated. We continue our narrative lectionary summer series, Women of the Bible. We're in week 2, and some of the faithful women of this congregation are presenting to us some of the faithful women of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. And today we get to experience Miriam, as you heard in the prayer of the day written by some of the faithful women of this congregation. Miriam is on tab today. And you know who Miriam is, right? No, don't be pointing at the person here. In the biblical narrative, Miriam, famous Miriam, right? Well, after today, you'll know who Miriam is. But if I said to you, you know who Moses is, right? Well, of course. Did Moses have a mom? I'm not going to give it all away, but today we have Miriam. Speaking of giving it all away, I'm going to toss it to Kate. Don't give it all away, but, talk about Miriam a little bit.
Well, I'm definitely not going to give it all away. I'm going to leave Miss Rhonda to share a lot of Miriam's story with you. Miriam's story is that she was from God's chosen people, and she had a really important role to play. And so I'm going to kind of take that idea and move it a little bit towards us. This week, Tim and I were at Kairos, which is an amazing program that we will talk lots more about. But in it, we are surrounded by God's chosen people, together for a purpose. And while we're there, we focus on creating what we call an intentional Christian community, a community where we are together, focused on our worship and praise and service of the Lord. Well, y'all, isn't that what we're here for too? We are also God's chosen people, every single one of us. We all bring our unique talents and skills and abilities to come together, to worship together, to love and serve the Lord. And that's all of us. We all have our unique abilities. And I'm thinking about how our church has really come together in the last several months. We have people who are using their talents for music. We have pastor using his talents to do pastory things. We have folks who are cleaning our church, providing snacks. We have a team out working in the yard. We have our kids helping to clean the church. And some of our kids also are helping with hospitality. So we all are coming together to worship God, to show our love, our praise of the Lord. And to me, it then fills you up to take that, because it's not just come on Sunday morning and then forget about it. It's like now we're filled up from being together and praising together. Now let's go out into the world and share that message in the world. So we, like Miriam, are God's chosen people with a special purpose in our lives.
So did Miriam have a mom? Did Miriam have a sister? Did Miriam have? You're going to find out here soon enough. But let's get into the scriptures here to frame some of what we're going to hear today. Reading from Exodus chapter 2, 1 through 10, and then chapter 15, 20 through 21. Frame it in the whole story of Moses, which you may be most familiar with. But remember, Miriam's here today. Let's read it together. Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a fine baby, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and plastered it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds on the bank of the river. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, while her attendants walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to bring it. When she opened it, she saw the child. He was crying, and she took pity on him. "This must be one of the Hebrews' children," she said. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Yes." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, because, she said, "I drew him out of the water." Then the prophet Miriam, Aaron's sister, took a tambourine in her hand, and all the women went out after her with tambourines and with dancing. And Miriam sang to them, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. Horse and rider he has thrown into the sea." Whew, there's a lot to this story, but I get to be preached at this morning too. Miriam.
Preach, Dad. I'm going to talk to you. Hello. I'm Miriam. I've been a daughter, a sister, prophetess, leader, and musician. I better use these. My mother, Jochebed, and father, Amram, just had a baby boy, and shortly after he was born, the Pharaoh made a decree in all Hebrew baby boys they should be thrown into the Nile River. In other words, killed. He repeatedly said that every Hebrew daughter should be left to live, though mainly to the midwives. My mom, Jochebed, is quite clever in her thinking. After she couldn't hide him anymore, she made a basket out of papyrus, covered it with asphalt and pitch, and to make it waterproof, and set my baby brother inside and put the basket afloat, threw it into the Nile, as the Pharaoh decreed. This waterproof basket, as the world shall come to find out, will save this baby boy from certain death. My mother had me follow the basket and watch from a distance what would happen to my baby brother. As luck or fate would have it, I watched as the Pharaoh's daughter, who'd come to the Nile River to bathe, noticed the basket, had it brought to her, and grew a brilliant smile on her face after the paper wouldn't come. Opening the basket to find my brother. Joyous and overcome with near instantaneous motherly love, she was excited to keep him and told the people around her that he is named Moses because she drew him out of the water. Witnessing this adoption, I had an idea. I shouted across the water and asked her if she would want a nursing mother for the baby. To our great fortune, the Pharaoh's daughter accepted. She spoke to my mother and said if my mom will take this child and nurse him for her, she would give my mother her wages. My mother and Moses were reunited, and he grew. Eventually, in Midian, God made him into a hand of God. Years later, after all the plagues, which my other brother Aaron assisted Moses as a prophet, and I myself became a prophetess. After Pharaoh's son was killed by the 10th plague, after we left Egypt because the Pharaoh said, "Get out," after his son was killed, he soon came out of the palace He soon came out of the palace to attempt to get us back, since Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. They realized something. Who would serve them better than the Israelites? They enjoyed our servitude, and we weren't too far away yet. They got all their chariots and charged to get us back. After he heard their fears, and I mean all their fears, Moses told the Israelites to break camp down in front of Baal-zephon. Then Moses lifted his arms and staff, parted the Red Sea for us to walk across the bottom to escape the Egyptian army, and closed the Red Sea on top of them as soon as we were safely across. After all the excitement of escaping the Egyptian army, I was moved to dance. I grabbed a tambourine, and some of my fellow women joined in to dance with tambourines as well. I sang a song of thanks to God for getting all of us through that alive. Oops. Sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. for he has thrown the horse and its rider into the sea. How do we use that now? Miriam was what we fans of stories from movies and TV like to call a best supporting actress. And though she didn't get the kudos that Moses did, she was behind the scenes, making her brothers look spectacular to God's people. They even made a movie about it, one of my favorites. We as a people, too, are saving baby boys to saving whole families from persecution. Unfair treatment to anyone because of religion, nationality, color of skin, sex, age, poverty-stricken, unemployment, etc., also will not be tolerated. We as women, like Miriam, are making our way as leaders in our world. CEO to bishop to vice president, and then we as a people say prayers of thanks to the Lord our God. Then we like to celebrate with music, and I like to use the tambourine. That is all.